Over to you.
All right, sounds good. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, especially those late at night over in India. Appreciate you joining today's session. Basically, what we're going to do is in an hour, we're going to do our best to try to introduce you to what Tableau is all about. If I had 10 hours, I probably couldn't scratch all this content, but we'll go through pretty quickly. I do need to go ahead and, as per any of our presentations here at Salesforce and Tableau, we do show you a safe harbor statement. There is a section in the slides that if we share the slides with you, I'll be taken out. We're going to share a little bit of where Einstein, or an announcement that we made last week at our Tableau Conference. I'll save that for the presentation, and Tableau are coming together, and I've got some insight into that. So I thought, even though this is focused on getting you up to speed with Tableau, an intro to Tableau, I felt like this audience would really benefit from hearing that information if you didn't make it to our Tableau conference. My name is John Demby. I'm a lead creative strategist here at Salesforce and Tableau. I've been in this business for well over 25 years, developing and implementing IT systems. If you can't tell from the hat, I'm out of Texas, the Fort Worth area of Texas. My day job, I get to build cool integrated demos between Salesforce, Tableau, Heroku, MuleSoft, Datorama, Marketing Cloud, all sorts of things like that, especially on our Tableau side. And I get to do Salesforce events like this. So this is like, you know, I love doing these events because it gives me a chance to connect with people and hear what they're saying and the questions they have. And then I get that information and hopefully get it back into our dev teams and our other teams so that they can do things with it and influence our product. Fun fact, if you can tell from my setup, this is not a general setup. I've been building it over the last couple of years. With a goal of starting a podcast. So at this point, I will pass it over to my colleague, Gigi, and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, John. I'm Gian, but I go by Gigi. I'm a developer advocate at Tableau. I'm based in Seattle, so it's 7 a.m. my time right now. I've been at Tableau for a little bit more than 4 years. I used to be based in London, moved to Seattle about 2 years ago. Quite new to the area still. Apparently, you have to live in Seattle for 10 years to be considered from Seattle, or be someone from living in the town in Seattle. So still learning. So my day job is helping data devs, Tableau developers by using our APIs and platform in the usage and the adoption of our APIs and developer tools. So I'm not starting a podcast, and as you might guess right now, I hear a French accent in my voice when I speak, but don't get fooled by my French accent. I'm actually from Mauritius, so I go back to John.
Okay, thanks, Gigi. All right, so what are we going to cover today? What is Tableau? I'm going to give you a little bit of history and what makes Tableau special. Then I've got one slide on Tableau architecture. That's how quickly we can sum up what our architecture is all about. It's simple, but it's powerful. Then I'm going to go through that recent announcement that we made at Tableau Conference, a few slides on that. What I really want to do, though, is get my hands on the keyboard. I want to show you the Tableau platform live. I'm going to go through, show you connecting to some data. We're going to go through and build a few vizzes and then views, and then I'm going to tie that all together in a dashboard and give you a sense of just how easy it is to use Tableau. Then I'm going to pass it over to Gigi, who's going to give you a little overview of our data dev initiatives and things like that. There's a slide on the upcoming sessions, which you've heard earlier that this is a series. The rest of the sessions will drop on YouTube as recorded sessions. And then hopefully, if I do my job right, we'll have about 10 minutes for Q&A. I would encourage you to queue that Q&A up in the chat window if you can. If it's something that Gigi or Joe, another one of our colleagues here from Tableau, can answer, they'll answer it in the chat. If not, we'll try to cover as much of that in the little time that we have for Q&A. So with that, let's move on. So what is Tableau? Well, simply put, Tableau has a very simple mission. We want to help people see and understand data. When I came to Tableau about 4+ years ago, I was amazed that not only was I working with a product that was so innovative and so game-changing that it spanned all industries, all verticals, all types, all departments, and it actually was used by nonprofits, NGOs, news organizations, people that, basically need to see data, because when we actually first look at data, it's usually just a lot of numbers or a lot of just rows of information, because that's the way we store it. But really, to get to those nuggets of data, you have to see it. And that's what Tableau is all about. So what does that mean? So I've got a really kind of fun slide here that kind of tells you the history of Tableau in three logos. So the first thing is we have to go back to where our DNA comes from. So I don't know if I have anybody here that does graphic artist or has used a product that's out there in the marketplace. I believe they just announced their 30th or 35th release. I think it's been around about 30 years now. But for those that may not remember, when Toy Story came out, it was a groundbreaking movie. It was totally different because everything was done on a computer. It wasn't hand-drawn like older animated movies of the past, like Snow White and things like that. And so it took a fraction of the time and much fewer people. Well, RenderMan ultimately was a vision of Steve Jobs, who started Pixar. So we kind of get the visionary piece there. But one critical person who built that application was one of our co-founders. And so what happened was he put together this idea of taking numbers and code and turning it into visuals. And so as he did that, as he really kind of developed out this concept of RenderMan, he won a couple of Oscars. And so on the back of his desk, wherever he may be today, he's still teaching at Stanford, you'll actually see those Oscars back there. So we have Academy Awards in our DNA. Well, he went back to Stanford and started teaching, and there were a couple other gentlemen, and I won't bore you with our whole history story because it's on our website, but a couple of gentlemen decided that, hey, there's got to be a better way to see data. And they stumbled across the third person, brought them into, said, hey, I've got this thing called RenderMan. I've been toying with this idea. And so born out of that was this concept that we needed something that would take a person's interaction and turn it into a visual language, much like SQL, but we call it VizQL. And so it's a patented process. It's something that no other visualization solution on the market has today because we're still under patent. Well, what does that mean? That means that when I show you Tableau, I'm not going to have to pick a chart type to begin with. I'm going to automatically just start exploring my data. And built into Tableau is this VizQL that interprets what I'm doing. And so if I'm looking at time series, it says, hey, you want to see that in a line chart. That's probably the best way to do it. If I'm looking at some other data, I might see it in a tree map. I might see it in a bar chart or something like that. And so it's this intuitive nature that takes whatever the actions are that the user's taking in Tableau, converts that to what we call VizQL that can then write out, do the SQL, do the back-end stuff to be able to produce the visuals. So that's our secret sauce. That's VizQL. And so you may hear that over and over. But what does VizQL really provide you today? Well, I spent a little time, and I'm going to mention Tableau Public here in just a second, but I spent a little time looking at Tableau Public, and this is one of our featured vizzes recently for Tableau Public, and I thought it was a really great viz. And Tomas has been one of our featured Tableau Public authors. He's got 3 times. He's had his video of the day featured and stuff like that. And so this is one of his vizzes that he was able to create with the power of Tableau, with that DNA going all the way back to Pixar. So that's what Tableau is kind of all about. We want to help people see and understand their data, but we want to do it in a much powerful visual way. So Tableau Architecture. So this is really simple. We have I like to say that we are built for the individual, but we scale to the enterprise. So at the very top, we have different ways to consume Tableau. We can do it from desktop. We can do it simply from a browser. We have a mobile application. We can embed it. And we're going to cover some of those in future sessions. I believe we've got one session just on embedding. Then at the bottom is our deployment strategy. So we don't believe that we should like lock you into a particular OS or deployment strategy. If you want to deploy Tableau on premise, you can. If you'd like to do it in one of the public cloud providers, we've done things like being able to work with AWS and Azure and others, GCP, to be able to quickly get Tableau up in those environments. And we do a SaaS-based hosted solution. So if you, since this is primarily a Salesforce-oriented call, Salesforce is the crown jewel of SaaS-based applications. And with Tableau Online, you can easily connect that into that SaaS application. If you do deploy, we give you lots of options there. We run on Windows, we run on Linux, and our desktop and prep clients actually run on Mac. And then most of all, we're multi-tenant. So we built early on this concept of tenancy within our application. So you'll see a lot of overlap in the way our architecture is built, in the way that Salesforce has built their SaaS-based application. On the far left side, we have security and compliance. So we have a full-blown security model where we can actually encrypt the data all the way down to rest. We have a robust model that allows you to do row-level security to manage and monitor compliance with all of that. We have a data management tool that allows you to understand how your data is being used, who's using it, in what way they're using it. So if you need to make a change to the data, or if you want to understand that lineage, you can actually do it with our data management solution. We have a server management solution that helps you monitor your server, make sure you've got the health, and you can monitor content and move content around. On the far right is our extensibility and APIs, which is really what this whole series is going to be about. It's what our data dev team really focuses on. So the ability to expose our platform through our REST API, through our JavaScript API, through our Hyper API, which is how we do our extracts and things like that. And then in the center are all of the functional areas that we do. Everything from being able to comment on vizzes and collaboration, doing advanced analytics with R, Python, and now Einstein Discovery, being able to discover content very easily. We've already talked a little bit about security and compliance, but data management gives us that full governance model so that you can actually lock down data that's critical. Data prep, which I don't have a lot of time. I'm going to show it to you like in about a blur, but we have a full front-end prep capability so that you can combine multiple data sources, be able to do some data wrangling, clean those up. And then what's great about it is in true Tableau form, you see that visually. Then that gives you an output. And then recently in our latest release, that output actually now includes write out. So you can actually take that data prep, do something with it, move it into a Tableau server or Tableau Online to be able to see and use. Or if you want to write it out to a relational database, we are now a full end-to-end transformational tool that actually does write out. And then finally, the Tableau platform handles all of the data access. So as you begin to connect to data, we want to make it easy for users to access and do things with data. So that's the platform in a very quick nutshell, but there's a lot more information on our website. I'm going to show that to you in just a second, but I want to get on to the recent announcement. So I don't know how many of you might have actually attended our Tableau Conference-ish last last week, but we did our Tableau Conference, which is normally almost 20,000 people in a great location somewhere in the world. Last few years, it's been in Las Vegas. And all these Tableau people come together. It's one of the known as one of the best tech conferences out there. Maybe just as good as Dreamforce. I've been to both now, and they're both great conferences. But we had over 100,000 people attend our virtual conference last week, drop in on some of the content. And the good news is that all that content's made available to you, so you can actually go up to our website and attend those sessions, even though they're in the past. But one of the things that we announced in that session is ever since the acquisition of Tableau with Salesforce, there's been questions about what's going to go on with Einstein Analytics. Is Tableau going to replace Einstein Analytics? How do I figure out which is the best solution to use within Salesforce? Where do I use Tableau? How do I figure out how to use them together? And things like that. Well, the net of it is when Tableau was acquired by Salesforce, we now have in our mind the world's leading analytic platform. So we actually have Tableau there on the left-hand side that gives you all of those great things I just showed you in the reference architecture. And then over the last few years, the Einstein team at Salesforce has really developed a powerful machine-learned AI type-based engine that's optimized for Salesforce data and becomes native to the Salesforce experience. And so as we look at that, the current architecture looks very similar to this. You've got Einstein over on the left-hand side, you've got Tableau on the right-hand side. And so yes, we can bring Tableau into Salesforce very simply. And in fact, Gigi and the team that she works with just recently launched our Lightning Web component that makes the embedding of Tableau back into Salesforce even easier, and that's on the App Exchange. But when you look at these two solutions, there are what I would consider some interesting overlaps, but there's some gaps. One of the things that Tableau did not have in our product prior to the acquisition to Salesforce was the ability to do AI and machine learning. We could hook up to R and Python and things like that, but we didn't have our own machine learning engine. And so there was a gap there. So there's an opportunity. And then as we look at some of these other things, there's just more and more opportunities. And so what we're doing is we want to make this a seamless experience for customers that want to use both solutions. And so the first thing that we announced this last week was Einstein Discovery is now available, or it will be in the next release of Tableau, to Tableau. So we can actually take Einstein models, we can score those against Einstein Discovery, we can use that in our calculations against models, and we can actually use it in our data prep, Tableau data prep solution. So that's one area that we've already closed the gap, and now Tableau has predictive analytics just like Einstein does. We also are working on being able to connect to data much easier. So the ability from Tableau to connect to Einstein data sets, and then for Einstein to be able to connect to what we call our hyper or Tableau extracted data. So those are other areas that we're working on pretty quickly. Then as we collapse on this, this is our journey over time. So we want to get to one platform. And what's important about this is, and I'll show you in 2 slides, is this is not an end of life of either solution. It is an enhancement in taking the best of both solutions, and over time, taking and doing the heavy lifting that brings the 2 solutions together. And so I think that's an important aspect. As you learn Tableau, I think it is important that you maintain and even keep up your Einstein skills as well, because over time, you're going to see those things merge together. And so this would be our journey over time, and eventually you'll see us be one product, one thing. So with that, last week we announced that we have rebranded Einstein Analytics to Tableau CRM. So now Tableau CRM, or formerly Einstein Analytics, becomes part of our portfolio along with Tableau Online, Server, Prep, and Desktop. So it becomes another channel that we can actually do analytics with, but it's native to Salesforce. And over time, you'll see more and more Tableau DNA trickle into Tableau CRM, just as you're seeing more and more of the Einstein DNA trickle into Tableau. So we get that great advanced AI capabilities all in all of the platform. And then finally, just a statement. We are retaining and building upon the current capabilities of Einstein Analytics and Tableau. We are going to continue to innovate. We're going to expand our capabilities, and we're going to do that collectively. But we're doing it because all of the development teams, both Tableau and Einstein, are all together under the Tableau umbrella. And so we are committed to this journey. We're committed to both products. We're committed to our ongoing investment in the technology, and we are committed to expanding and innovating and bringing those products together. So with that, let's actually get into the product. So I've probably got about 20 minutes to show you some stuff. So let's see here if this goes well. All right, before I actually open up Tableau Desktop, I want to show you a couple of things just as reference. Because one of the things that Tableau has done an awesome job of is we are transparent. You can find answers simply by Googling your questions. We try to make sure everything's indexed. We have a great ecosystem in the community. And so the Tableau site is your friend. You definitely want to come to Tableau and use the Tableau site. As part of that, we make it really easy for you to get started. And so we actually have different getting started paths based on your roles. We have e-learning that you can actually take advantage of if you want to. So especially in these times where going and taking classroom training is really not much of an option, we've really ramped up our e-learning capabilities. We have our great community, and then we have over 109 how-to videos. We've got 11 training courses, and then we have over 240 e-learning sessions that you can take advantage of. So one of the things that I just mentioned was the Tableau Community. So the Tableau Community, to me, is one of those game changers. And so in a minute, I'm going to show you Tableau Public. But students, teachers, events, everything from that perspective, our community sites and everything. So I would encourage you to get engaged with the community. So Gigi's going to talk to you about the Tableau Developer Program in just a bit, but I wanted to make sure you understood that that is under resources, a website where you can actually go and join the Tableau Developer Program. So hopefully as part of this series, you'll engage with us and add to the Tableau Developer Program. So I want to talk to you about Tableau Public, and I want to talk to you about my 11th grader, and then we're going to go do some stuff in Tableau Desktop. So Tableau Public, the world's largest YouTube data visualization. I can go here to the gallery. I just picked out one thing yesterday, but I can just scroll here and see just amazing visualizations. At one point, I was told we had over 1 million visualizations. I think that number actually may be closer to 3 million nowadays, but for sure we have over 1 million visualizations. This is a free platform. Anybody that wants to use Tableau and share it freely on this platform can use Tableau Public. It doesn't have the same restrictions and security things that you would have normally if you were using Tableau in your enterprise. So Tableau Prep, going to spend like 2 minutes on this. I'm not going to have time to really do much hands-on with Tableau Prep. Tableau Prep, again, something that we brought and innovated from the ground up organically a couple of years ago. We developed it with the same DNA as Tableau. The idea is that I can connect to all sorts of different data. I can join that data together, but most of all, I can clean that data from easy to use visuals. So like if I wanted to go look at something here and click this one and expand the palette here and click that, then I visually see any impact that I make to my data as I'm doing it. So it's not like traditional ETL tools where I write a script and I run it and then I go see if that actually fixed my problem. I can do fuzzy logic, grouping, everything like that. I have the ability to clean data. I have the ability to union. I have the ability to join. I can actually do aggregation. I can pivot, and I can pivot both directions as many times as I want to pivot from that perspective. And then I have the ability to output. That output could be to a local file, it could be to a Tableau server, or it could be to a relational database now in our latest release. This also can then be used with our prep conductor up on the server to actually schedule these as a repeatable process to be able to get the data. So that's one way. If the data that you're working with is maybe not as clean, you may decide to use Tableau Prep. It does come with our creator license, so you get Tableau Prep, you get Tableau Server, and you do get a creator license on a Tableau Server or Tableau Online, depending on which one you're deployed on. So that is Tableau Prep, all the time we got for that. So now I'm in Tableau Desktop. So this is where a lot of you will actually start. Now we have, over the last couple of years, tried really hard to take our Tableau Desktop experience and move it to the web. And so a lot of what I'm showing you today, I'd say we're at probably about 90% parity with the web. I could have started my journey with Tableau online or Tableau server on the web, and I wouldn't have to have a desktop solution. But the desktop solution has a lot of advantages because it runs locally. It's a little bit easier for you to access some of the more advanced functions and stuff like that. But again, we want to give you that equal type experience. So when I start with Tableau, it opens up like this, and I get my connections. I have recent things I've opened, and then I get discovery. And here it'll actually tell me like little advertisements like, hey, let's go back and look at Tableau Conference, or maybe I want to take some of those training videos that I mentioned. Well, for me, what I want to do is connect to some data, and I'm going to just make it simple today. I'm going to connect to some Excel data. I've got an Excel spreadsheet I put here, and it's the one that actually comes on in Tableau. So everything I'm showing you today, I'm using a data set that's called Superstore. It is what we ship with the product. Everybody that installs Tableau gets the Superstore spreadsheet and data set and even sample workbook in your Tableau install. So you'll be able to do exactly everything I'm showing you today. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And that's going to show me a couple of things here when it opens up. It's going to show me my data connection here. It's going to show me I'm connected here. Now, what is the data interpreter? Data interpreter is if you've ever connected to some Excel data that's been kind of formatted for printing. So it's got like a whole bunch of rows above that are empty and rows on the side. So it's got like it's been designed to look pretty in Excel and then print nicely on a piece of paper. Well, if you use the interpreter, we'll go figure all that out and clean out all that garbage and all those extra rows and stuff like that and give you just rows and columns of data. Well, my data is already clean from that perspective. And so I want to pull over and bring over orders. Simply clicking orders actually loads this. I get to see a sample of my data. Now, one of the important things about Tableau is we, again, believe you should have choice. So we can do both a live connection and an extract. Now, that's not for every connector. Some connectors may be web applications and stuff like that. Their APIs may not allow us to do a live connection. And so the only thing we can do is through extract. But a lot of our connectors do both. And so it's a balance. You're going to get probably a little bit better performance when you extract it into our fast in-memory data engine. But that said, there's going to be times that for quick, like real-time data that you want to see, you're going to want to do some stuff like that. So I pull this over. I would be able to join it, do everything like that, but I want to kind of move on pretty quickly. So I'm going to go to sheet 1. And you notice it kind of oranged out. It's like, hey, I've got some data. I'm ready to go. Let's do something. Well, I want to ask some questions. And so this gets back to that VizQL. I'm going to ask what my sales are. And Tableau is going to give it back to me in a single bar chart because that's the best way that Tableau thinks to give me that data. Now I could go and change it to a number or change it to something else. But Tableau is also probably assuming that I want to split or look at this data. So I notice that I have a category field. So I'm going to do category, and then maybe I could do subcategory. Well, the problem is that these are not linked. And so if I was to take away subcategory, I can't go back to subcategory really easy. I can't do that drill down. That's where Tableau makes it super easy to do hierarchy. So just drag and drop. I'm going to bring this here on top. I'm going to call this cat. I'm going to hit enter. Now I've got this drill down, and you notice I have this plus here. And so I can do stuff like that. I can quickly flip the rows. I can say, hey, I want this to do the entire view. And then colors are interesting because colors are these pre-attentive attributes. And a lot of times in our visuals, we use color wrong. So color needs to mean something. So I don't want to put color on subcategory because though that might be really kind of cool from a rainbow perspective. And it has some kind of gradients here. I really just want to use this color to split out this data. So I'm going to actually take subcategory out. And then I've got a defined reason to use color because I can quickly see the different categories. If I want to sort, hit the sort button. And if I want my text to show up next to, hold on, there's a little T button there, and I can see my numbers. So this is pretty good. I'm going to just call this really quickly. I'm going to rename that. I'm going to do this as sales by cat. All right. So now I want to go do something else. Again, I'm interested in sales, but I want to ask a very different question. I want to ask a time series question. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to order date because I want to see my sales by order date. Well, when I first click this, we automatically apply hierarchies to all dates. So I don't have to go figure out, is this month, day, year, anything like that. We automatically do that. So when I go up there, I could say, great, that's fun, but maybe what I want to do is I want to see it by quarter. Or maybe what I want to see it is I want to see it by month. Or maybe what I want to do is I want to drill into this and do something like that. Maybe by day. Come on. I think the little thing keeps popping up on me. And so now I see all my days, January, stuff like that. Now, if I take away day and just leave, or month and just leave day, now I've got 1 through 31. But what is this? Well, these are my sales for the 8th of every month in my data set. So this is what's called a discrete data type. So not only does Tableau give you hierarchies in your date, we allow you to decide if it's a discrete or a continuous date. So in this case, what I really want to do is I want to look at my data continuously, and I want to look at that data by day across my whole data set. And now I've got a line where I could see my peaks, and I could drill in, drill out, do things like that. I actually want to see this by month. So I'm going to go here and do it this way, kind of like this. I'm going to say, rename this. I'm going to say sales by date. But you know what's interesting is I would like to understand what my sales are across my different segments. So I have 3 segments in my data set. So this is another example of a good use of color because I can give each segment a color, and then with the highlighter, I can focus in on what the different segments are. So I can see, of course, consumer is really high in December of 2019, where if I look down here, home office is really low in December of 19. Of course, this is made up data, but maybe this is not indicative now of what you would see with the current pandemic. But I've got sales by date, I got sales by category. So I've got a couple of things here. I want to go ahead and do one more real quick, and then I'm going to knit it all together for you on a dashboard. Then we're going to flip over to GG and then hopefully some Q&A. So the other thing that you'll notice, I have all these little globes sitting here. When Tableau opened this data, it interprets what are dates. Even if the data source hasn't called it out as a date, it interprets if it's a date field, if it's a number field, if it's a text field. It also interprets if that field may have some sort of geo coding information. And so in this data set, I had city, country, I had postal codes, I had states. And what Tableau quickly did was it figured out that these all could be mapped to geolocation. So we store geocoding in our database, and I could quickly go create a hierarchy here if I wanted to. So I'll go city to region. I'll just call this geo. Of course, I think state probably needs to go ahead of city. And then, of course, postal code probably needs to go right here. And so, boom, I've got a nice little hierarchy. So if I actually went here and clicked on country, it's going to give me 1 dot for the United States. Not very interesting. All that's doing is telling me that all of my sales happen to be in the United States of America. Well, if I drill into this, now it's going to give me a dot for every state, actually every 48 states. For demo purposes, we've excluded Alaska and Hawaii from our sales site, so the map doesn't scale out. So if you ever wonder about looking at the US Superstore, that's why. Again, interesting, but not that interesting. And then if I drill into cities, it begins to get a little bit more interesting because I can see I do a lot of business on the East Coast, West Coast, some in the Midwest, and so there might be some information here. And so this gives me kind of where this is, but this is where those pre-attentive things, those things your mind sees and can instantly recognize that are interesting. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and bring sales to size. And I'm going to click on this and give it a little bit more size so I can see what's going on. And so now I can see that, of course, New York City has probably some of my largest sales. And so I see these bubbles now kind of taking shape based on population per se. But what I also would like to know is where if I've got profit issues. So that's where I can bring profit to color. And it automatically assigns a divergent color palette that is colorblind friendly. And it actually says, oh, negative profit should be closer to orange, positive profit is blue. So now I see information like Houston has $64,000 in sales, but we have given away $10,000. We've not made any profit really in Houston. I can do some cleanup here. So I'll go here, I'll put a little border around it just to make it easier to see. And then I'll make the opacity a little bit so you can see through some of the bubbles. And now I've got kind of some information that might be helpful to drill into. So I'm going to put this one here by sales by Geo. All right, we're going to put it all together in a quick dashboard. Dashboard, boom. I'm going to go here for my purposes. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to use automatic. So I use the whole screen. I want to bring the map out first. And then what I'd like to do is put this maybe down here. And then maybe I want to put the line chart over like this. And so by itself, and then I don't really need the legend. So I'm going to recapture that. And then I'm going to grab this down, make the map a little bit bigger. Maybe pull this up just a bit. All right, so by itself, I have a pretty interesting dashboard if it was just meant to be static. I can see my sales and stuff like that, and I could drill into Houston. And at any point, I can always go see the full data behind a mark from that perspective. I could use explain data to try to understand through Bayesian models why this mark is the way it is. So I have lots of power here with this tooltip. But in the interest of time, I want to create a filter. Now I just grabbed this little filter logo here and I said, hey, you know what? I want to make the map the filter. So I want to understand a little bit more about what's going down in Houston. So the minute that I click Houston now, you'll notice that the two other visits have dynamically changed. And so now I can actually see, you know, what kind of mix of business I've had, and I can see what kind of categories or subcategories I've had within here. And so I may want to drill into some of these to understand. And I could, of course, do something here, like if I wanted to make this let's make the date one a filter. So the same thing, maybe I want to understand what's going on in consumer in December. click December. This shows me all the locations I sold in the consumer segment, and then this shows me what I sold in that consumer segment. So in a quick, like, I don't know, that was probably 15 minutes. I showed you a lot, but that at least gives you a starting point for your Tableau journey. There's so much more that we could do here, but what I'm going to do now is go back to the slides. Gigi, it'd probably be easier if I just run your slides for you. So,
yeah, that would be awesome.
All right, you're on.
Perfect. Thank you. So thank you, John, for the introductions and to Tableau and all the possibility of Tableau. But now I want to talk about the Tableau developer platform. So you can do already a lot with Tableau, but you can do even more with the Tableau developer platform. And I want to go over the 5 different categories of things you can do using our APIs and developer tools. So the first one is automation and integrations. If you want to automate tedious tasks or integrate with Tableau with a third-party tool. The example is Slack. If you want to receive a Slack message every time you have a new user on your Tableau Online, on your site, you might want to get notified on Slack. So you can use our developer tools APIs to get notified directly in your tool. Then we have extensibility. Extensibility extends the capability of your dashboard. Only the sky is your limit. This is when you want to integrate with another party or do more with your dashboards. Then advanced analytics. This time you are not going to extend Tableau dashboard capability, but you are going to extend the calculate fields on Tableau capability. You're going to integrate with R, Python. It's really interesting for here. We have the sentiment analysis for the songs. So if you want to run your own R and Python script in Tableau and visualize your data directly inside Tableau. Then we have embedding. John mentioned it earlier when he showed the platforms, but you can embed Tableau anywhere. You can have your Tableau dashboard, your Tableau visualization anywhere, and you can have it in Tableau as well. Then we have connectivity. We saw that we have a lot of different native connectors in Tableau, but if your connector is not in the list of native connectors or you want to automate certain aspect of it, you can use the Tableau developer platform to get any data inside Tableau and visualize them in Tableau. So all these different buckets are really interesting, and we're not going to spend time on it today, but we have a series of events that are covering all the different topics in different categories. But before the events, you can already join the Tableau developer program. It's a free space for you to innovate and learn about our APIs and developer tools. You are going to get a free development site where you can use and learn our APIs without breaking anything. It's your space, you are an admin. This development site gets an early access to all our APIs on your endpoints. So you can get to play with APIs that have not been released to the public yet. You are going to join a community of passionate people, and you're also going to have a direct line with the communication between with the engineering team. You are going to talk to product manager, engineers that are working on APIs and developer tools. Then you also get invited to exclusive events. You are going to, every month you have, for example, sprint demos where we show you what's coming next. So you have, again, product manager, Tableau engineering team members going to show you what they are working on and what's coming in the upcoming weeks or months. And we talk about the data dev. The data dev is our community of developers using our APIs and developers. So you're joining a community of awesome people via forums, and we also have a Slack channel. It's in the fun space for you to learn and innovate. So we really like our T-Rexes. I think you can see it in my background. So that's our mascot. And we try to make any learning experience fun for you to learn and innovate. So if you're interested in learning more about APIs, Tableau's APIs and developer tools, learn about the capability or learn how to use them, join us at developer.tableau.com. So that's it. I think the next step for you is joining the developer program and also come up to all our series of events, where it's like building an extension, automate, connectivity. That is all us answering to all the different buckets that you saw on the developer platform overview. So now we are going to take some questions with John.
Is there any questions? What do we got going on? I think we got about 175 people still on the Zoom meeting.
So GC, would you like to take the question from the chat window? I can see a couple of questions into the chat window.
I can see, so can I run our Python script in Tableau Desktop and then publish the dashboard to Tableau Online? That's a very interesting question. So right now you can use our Python script in Tableau Desktop. You cannot publish the dashboard on Tableau Online yet. It's coming later this year or early next year. The script, you can publish the dashboard to only the on-prem solution of Tableau, so on Tableau server, but it is coming.
I'm glad you took that one. Yeah, if you just want to fire off the whatever in the chat window, it might be the easiest if one wants to read it, and we'll just figure out who wants to take it. Or
I have a question for you, John.
All right.
Our Tableau CRM is different from Tableau Online, Desktop, or other platform. I don't know if you want to put the slide again on.
Yeah, let me just I'll go back to which slide? So think of it this way. Tableau CRM is formerly Einstein Analytics. So the Analytics Studio that was part of, and it's going to take us, we think, probably the better part of 6 months to complete the rebranding of Einstein Analytics. So of course, when Winter 21 is coming out, you're still going to see everything branded as Einstein Analytics. You're going to see the Analytics Studio. You're going to see everything just like it is. In fact, there's some incredible improvements in Einstein with Winter 21. But is today, you still would use the Analytics Studio in Salesforce for everything Einstein Analytics, and you would use Tableau Desktop as that standalone product. So like I said, if I go back here to the current state, this is the current state. So we still have dotted lines between the products, and then what we will be releasing toward the end of this year with the integration of Einstein Discovery with the machine learning. So that becomes a new option for those that might be using our Python. If you're already an Einstein Discovery customer, you'll be able to do that. We're working on how you might become an Einstein Discovery customer if you want to use that in Tableau. And then the same thing, we're working on the data sharing between Einstein data sets and Tableau hyper extracts. But yeah, for right now, you still have a Tableau desktop to do all the really kind of cool things that I showed you, and then everything in what we call Tableau CRM, formerly known as Einstein Analytics, is still just done the way you've done it up to this point. So hopefully that answered that question. If there's not, just, I guess, post a follow-up in the chat. Next question.
Tableau is more a dashboard tool or a prediction tool?
That's a great question, in that I wish I had added a slide to this deck that I had actually done. Gartner has a really cool slide that I redid. But Tableau is good for telling you what has happened and what is happening. But with the addition of Einstein Discovery into the Tableau platform, we now move to the what will happen area. We had been slowly moving that way. We actually have a Bayesian engine that's built into the platform that explains kind of what has happened. but we are moving toward, we've added some of that regression and analytics into the native platform in this current release that you can use in a calculated field. But one of the things that we're moving toward is that full integration with Einstein Discovery. And so if you don't want to use R or Python, if you want to use something that's really simple to use, Einstein Discovery connected to Tableau is going to give you that predictive capability that right now is just in Tableau CRM or Einstein Analytics. So hopefully that answers that question. But yes, we're moving that direction.
Next question, what is the journey path should be like for someone from a complete non-tech guy like me?
That's a great one. So if I go back over here and I go to resources and getting started, I can't tell you that this is your friend in terms of either doing with the e-learning or even when you go to, like, I'm going to bring Tableau back up. And if I go to the home page, you notice that I have all these getting started things. And so one of the things is, this is probably of course it wants me to sign in. I didn't sign in advance. Let's see if it remembers me without making me do my, there we go. Well, I work for Tableau. Didn't you know that? And I'm going to stop it. But all of these, this is probably the most important video to watch if you want. This one runs 25 minutes. After this video of all of our getting started and videos that kind of help you with the how-tos, after this one, they're all about 5 to 6 minutes. So they're short, they cover a topic, very kind of attentive, like the way people learn now with quick YouTube videos and stuff like this. This one's the 25-minute one. So this literally covers in 25 minutes some of the stuff that I covered, but it will cover a lot more in terms of what's there. But it'll show you how to build the views. It'll show you filters. I didn't show you any filters. You can see the transcript. You can get the data set. And what we do a lot in our training is we give you a starting workbook and we give you a finishing workbook. And so you can get the workbook as well to get started. And you'll notice that most of this is applicable all the way back to when we came out with version 10, but it's also applicable right now with our 2020 releases. But this is where I would start your process, is I would start with the getting started videos and really kind of do that. And like I said, you can get to those super easy just within Tableau. We make it super easy for you to get through these first few videos from that perspective. So hopefully that answered that question.
Perfect. Next question, can you give the audience a one-line description on how Tableau defines continuous versus discrete measures and dimensions?
One line description. Well, you saw it in the date viz that I created. So when we're able to do something with a discrete measure, we put it in a bucket. And so we define what that bucket is, and we put everything in that bucket. When we look at something from a continuous measure, we take away the bucket and we look at the whole series of the data. And so maybe that might be the closest philosophical thing I have for one line, but literally Tableau helps you with that, helps you really kind of understand the difference between discrete and continuous. And I know one of the things you're going to learn as you start using Tableau is there are also different color pills in terms of, I believe discrete is blue and continuous is green. I don't know, maybe, yeah, I think that's right. And then, so what'll happen is as you're building this, you may, as you start learning the difference, you may have to go take, and it's really simple. You just click on, if I go to this guy here, and if I go back to one of these, and let's just say I wanted, whoops, what just happened? Where'd you go? my screen just decided it wanted to do, oh, it opened up the other workbook. But if I wanted to, you'll notice that I have the ability here, depending on what I'm doing, to edit and shelf, or I can come over here, I can look at things, depending on if it can be converted to discrete continuous or discrete. And then the other thing is, at any point, if something comes in and say, for instance, it should be a dimension, not a measure, it's as simple as just moving it up or copying it. And what's great about Tableau is we store all this as XML. So we're not writing anything back to the data source. So the next time I open up this data set, if I save all my changes, now I get to see everything there. So any calculated fields I create, anything from that perspective, I can reuse those over and over again if I publish the data set with those things. All right, next question.
I think we can say that the challenge is successful. One line.
Yeah, no, I'm not known for one line.
No, but it was a great explanation, so
Yeah.
it's worth it. Is there, as an interesting question, is there any limitation in terms of which type of database we can connect to using Tableau?
So I'm going to show you, I'm going to blast out here. These are the there are a few things I've added in here. I've gone, and CData is one of our great partners who's developed, recently they announced 200 new connectors that you can acquire from CData into Tableau, and they drop in here natively as well. So there's a couple in here. But for the most part, what's on this list, and I'm on a Mac, is everything that we have that is Mac and Windows friendly. There are some Windows connectors that are just Windows connectors. I think about IBM, DB2, and some things like that that really lend themselves to that. And so those are still just Windows only connectors. I can connect to JDBC and ODBC. I also have, through Data Dev, you saw that earlier, the web data connector. So I have the ability to connect if I can do a web service call or an API call into something. I can create a really simple web data connector, and there's a whole library of those that you can find through our dev program, anywhere from one that's out there that lets you use a connector to web data connector to connect to your Twitter and get things about Twitter. And it's not just your Twitter. I can pick anybody's Twitter handle and figure out what they're tweeting and stuff like that. If they've got a public account, could be weather, could be geospatial, stuff like that. Then you saw Gigi show the slide where you can create your own connectors. So if that all is not enough, we also connect to files, Excel, JSON files directly. We can connect to PDF. So if you're in and the reason we built this was specifically for this. Think about a legacy BI solution that like generates just tons of PDFs, and they're just the government's at least the U.S. government here is known for this, where they'll create these just large continuous tables in a PDF. And so with the PDF connector, I can connect to that PDF. We identify where the table is, we knit it together, and then we unlock that data. We can do spatial files, which are really cool. So I can do spatial joins, I can overlay spatial files, so I can actually see territories, custom maps, things like that. And then if I'm working with a statistical application, SPSS or something like that, I can actually bring those stats files in here as well. So